Assalamu alaikum, Tarek. How's everything going?
Salam. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well.
Welcome to the space. You know?
Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, never done anything like this before.
Never?
So,
Okay. Well, there's always a first for everything. You'll enjoy it. First of all, I appreciate your time, taking out Friday night to come out and have this conversation. And this is probably one of the more, I would say, not serious, but intense conversations, because this is a very serious topic. And a lot of things I think maybe people will hear for the first time. So I'm just going to dive right into it.
Okay.
So what compelled you to just go to Gaza? What part of your mind you're just thinking like, hey, let me make the move and take the trip and go and help out?
Yeah. So I would say that back in the day, I was when I was growing up, we grew up with this pediatric ICU doctor in our community, and he was a friend of my a father of my friends. And he would speak to us in like the local mosque, and he would tell us about his trips to Gaza, and he would go.
You want to say the person's name, or
Yeah, we could say Dr. Shamal Abdullah.
I was kind of thinking it was him. Okay.
Yeah. So Dr. Shamal Abdullah, he was always tell us about his trips to Gaza. And in my head, I was like, oh, like that's crazy. No one goes in, no one goes out. How's he doing it? And so that was always in the back of my mind, that somebody's able to go and help. Fast forward, did some social justice work during college. The issue in Palestine, the occupation became like really close to my heart. And like you pass through college, you're in an intense activist phase, and then everything kind of like stops and slows down after college. You're getting into your career. I eventually became a nurse. And always in the back of my head was like, I maybe want to do something more than just working in a hospital here. If I have the opportunity to help anywhere, then I'd be willing to go. The war started in Gaza, the genocide started. And immediately, right off the bat, in my head and to my wife, I was like, I need to go. If I can go.
You weren't scared like this might be the last. You're not coming back.
You don't get scared until like something comes to fruition.
Yeah.
And nothing came to fruition for months. It was October, obviously, when it started. It wasn't until March 2024 that I had the first opportunity to go. And it didn't seem like it was happening. And then within like a few days after I get a call, I was in Gaza.
So you were there in March
2024. Yeah.
How long were you there for?
I was there for a week.
A week?
Yeah.
How long did it feel like?
A few weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I stayed longer. I feel like a week wasn't enough to. I don't know if you're gonna ever feel like you made an impact because there's so much like things going on. Yeah. And I don't know if the purpose is to feel like you made an impact, but I wish I stayed more to do more at that time.
So tell me about the experience. Like, okay, you get the call, and then what?
Yeah. I was actually on a shift where I was getting voice notes from the team leader of like this group that was going, and she was like, I need to talk to you. I get on a quick call like during my busy ICU shift, and she tells me, hey, I know I told you that we wouldn't be able to take you to Gaza because she previously had replied to my email, but she was like, if you're still interested in going, we need to know by today.
Why did she say no? She was
it was just that they didn't need me. They needed an OR nurse. I was an ICU nurse.
Okay.
But she came back and she said, you need to let us know by today. I went home. It was like 7 a.m. I woke my wife up and I was like, hey, like it's finally like might happen. Like, how do you feel about it? And she said, I'm supportive and I'm ready for you to go.
Wow.
Called my parents. My mom was very supportive. My dad was like, if your wife's okay with it, then I'll be okay with it. And then the last thing I did was like did my due diligence. I called a sheikh that's like close to me and a imam that's close to me. And I asked him like if it was the right thing to do. He said that these are certain obligations that you should meet and certain certain people that you need to say yes. If that's the case, then prepare everything and
inshallah go. You did like a will and all that stuff?
I did it.
Oh, you did it? Okay. I was about to
say. I should have. I didn't even tell my wife my
you didn't leave her any money
passwords.
Or anything? You were just kind of like...
No, she has all my money. But besides that, no, nothing.
So she didn't have your laptop password before you left? No.
I think I took my laptop with me. Okay. I think more so is like my... my 401k password,
Uh-huh.
my E-Trade password,
Yeah.
my
Well, all
shit
that
bank-
stuff, I
yeah.
guess, if
They
you-
figured it out.
Yeah, because if there's someone associated that it's a beneficiary,
Yeah,
they would
exactly.
just get it.
Yeah. And then I think it was like maybe a Sunday that I got the call.
Uh-huh.
I think by Tuesday I think I flew out, and then by Thursday I was in Gaza. Yeah.
So where did you go first? Where
Yeah.
does the flight go?
So that first time I actually went to Cairo.
Okay.
From Cairo we drove through the Sinai Peninsula
Uh-huh.
to the Arish to through the border
How
into
long was
Rafah.
that?
Man, it was a long trip. It was like 12 hours.
That's 12 hours drive from Egypt?
It's not supposed to be.
Uh-huh.
But the Sinai Peninsula is like very militarized now.
Uh-huh.
I think after a few incidents that happened, like terrorist attacks. I don't even know the details.
Uh-huh.
But multiple checkpoints. And in between all those checkpoints, we still had like somebody that was like supposed to be our plug.
Yeah.
That was supposed to facilitate us getting through quickly.
What's the typical like distance? How far is it?
I think it's like 3.5 hours, 4
and
hours.
it took 12, so it's like three times.
It was a long trip. Yeah. And
Who was in your group? Who was with you when you?
it was all I was the only nurse.
Okay.
All doctors from all over. So we had like doctors from the U.S., doctors from Jordan. I think one from the UK, and then one from Libya. Yeah.
How many people were you guys in total?
I think the first time it was 9. I don't remember exactly.
Oh, it was only
Yeah.
90. That's intense.
Yeah.
It feels,
So it was a small group,
Yeah.
and that's considered like a big group for like most groups that go.
yeah.
I think most groups are allowed 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how many groups are typically going through this?
I don't know off the top of my head. I know there's a lot of organizations like sending people. I think Heal Palestine probably has a team. Fedra Scientific, Med Global. I went with Rahma Worldwide. So I probably don't know. I probably don't even know all of it. And then those are people going to like big hospitals. There's also field hospitals. There's also like UN and the IRC that are also there active. So
you go from Cairo. You guys are taking a car, bus.
yeah, like multiple vans.
Okay, and then you're driving through the night.
Daytime.
Daytime. Okay.
Yeah.
How does it feel? Like what's happening outside? Is it?
I mean, it's the desert. So, yeah, you're just anticipation. You're like listening to Quran. You're listening to some Arabic music, talking amongst yourselves, and just keeping
That's
yourself in
interesting.
touch.
Arabic music and
Yeah,
the
like
Quran.
in my head, I'm just like, oh, like it helps me calm down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're driving through the desert, and what do you see? Do you see are you able to see Gaza in the distance, or?
No, not really. It's quite far. You don't even see Gaza even as you pull up to like the Philadelphia
Corridor?
Like, yeah, exactly. So obviously, like by the time you get to the Arish, which is like the last like city before Gaza in Egypt, you're just start seeing the border. And then
Who's at the checkpoint? Is it the Egyptian military?
it was the Egyptian military. So that first experience, I didn't deal with like the IDF. I didn't see any Israelis like the entire time.
Oh, really?
Not even when I was in Gaza.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So you go through. What, did the Egyptian military say anything to you? Did you
No,
talk to
thankfully they were pretty chill.
Did they tell you anything, or they just kind of no?
No, I think like they're already expecting people to come in. I think they give people at that point they were just giving people a hard time that were trying to leave Gaza. That's when they were taking the 5,000 per head for people. Yeah, so they were giving them a hard time, keeping them for a while. But I think they were expecting us, so it wasn't too bad.
All right. Yeah. And what were conversations like with the people on the bus before going?
It's a long time ago now. I think just like expectations. Maybe if I think some of the people had previously gone to Gaza. So we were talking about what they remember from Gaza. And I remember specifically our team leader was talking about, I think a year before she had gone to Gaza and she was doing medical work. And she was talking about this beautiful hotel that she was staying at right on the beach and like how her day was. And then she showed me videos of the hotel, which is gone now. Completely destroyed. And she was just talking about how like she anticipates it to be completely different than the first time she went.
So you get to the border.
Yeah.
Where do you go next?
Yeah, so we technically went through like Palestinian passport control in a way. I think the Ministry of Health and then a bunch of reporters actually met us at they met us at the border. So they sit us down. They kind of greeted us.
This is like CNN and people like that, or
Yeah, I honestly don't even know. It was just I don't even know who's from what.
yeah.
But just especially kind and hospitable, and grateful that we were there. After that, we just took a bus and we headed to the European hospital, which we stayed the entire time. Yeah, on my first trip.
So you lived inside the hospital when you were there?
Yeah. So at that point, the hospital, well, the European hospital was, I think, one of the largest functioning hospitals. And so a lot of the medical teams were going to that hospital at that time. Along with that, you had, I think, another part of the hospital, which was like kind of like a remote building that an organization was running. I think it was the IMF, or it might be the, I think it's a French like medical organization. They were running that. You also had the nursing building. So some people were staying in like nursing dorms. We were staying in the IMF building. And then you had the main hospital. But the hospital compound itself was like effectively a refugee camp at the time. Like any open space was occupied with like just people in these makeshift tents. In the hospital itself, the hallways were lined with people. It was like a safe zone for people to stay in. Even the stairwell, as people, the corners where the stairs turn was a place for people to stay with their families.
What was it like seeing that for the first time when you got to the hospital?
I mean, it was unbelievable, and it was I don't think I'll ever see anything like that again. It was very people were displaced. I don't know how to describe it. Not great with words, but it was very disheartening. You felt like a lack of hope, I think, internally. Even as strong as like the people of Gaza are and resilient as the people are, I think you lost hope in like their situation. I don't know how to describe it really.
So before you got to the hospital, what was the scenery like?
It was very dark outside, so I actually don't remember anything that time. I like when we got there this second time that I went, it was daytime and we got to see a lot more. Yeah.
And what do you see? Is it just
flying
buildings everywhere?
Yeah, when we went through the second time, we also drove through Rafah to Nasser Hospital, which is in Khan Yunis. So a little bit further than like the first hospital that I stayed at. It was like between Khan Yunis and Rafah. And the second time we didn't see Rafah. Rafah was destroyed, completely destroyed.
So from the first time and the second time you went, even more things were destroyed.
Oh, like significantly more. Because I remember on the last day, on my first trip in March, we drove from the hospital and we drove through the main city of Rafah, just so that they can show us like what life is like at that time, as we were going back to the border through Egypt. And this time, as we drove that same route, going to the to Nasser Hospital, everything was destroyed. Nothing was left untouched. Every single building was pretty much demolished. Like Rafah was like gone. Yeah.
So in that first time you went, after you checked in, what was the first thing that you had to do? Like what was the first?
Yeah, they don't let us work on the first day we get there. I think just because of how hospitable they are, they want us to like rest, take a break, and get ready for the next day. I remember they had like already a meal prepared for us. Given like they don't have any food, they prepared us a meal. We went with some people from the hospital, and just to plan like who's gonna be where, what's most needed. And then after like that first night's rest, by 6 a.m. in the morning, we were like in the ORs and we were helping. I was helping with cases in the ORs.
What was your first case?
So my first case was a burn victim. We were doing an IND, and essentially this patient was a bomb was dropped on her home. Her her sister, and her mother were all burned, like 3rd and 4th degree burns. Like I think 30 to 40% of their bodies.
So I know I've heard from other people that when they went there, this like they've never seen anything like this.
Oh yeah, I have never seen anything like that.
Uh-huh.
No, and even going the second time when there was a ceasefire, I didn't see anything like the first time that I went.
Uh-huh.
And I was treating these patients like throughout these three family members throughout the entire time of I was there, constantly doing like burn dressing changes, working with the plastics teams, like taking them back to the OR, and as much as we did for them, I heard when I came back to Gaza a couple weeks ago that none of them were able to survive because of like the lack of resources, like as much as we could do for them, unfortunately.
Wow. How many people were you able to assist when you were there? Like,
I don't really, I don't know a number off the top of my head. We're probably, so I was working specifically with the plastic surgery team, and not what you imagine plastic surgery to be. This is like trauma plastics, skin grafts and burn INDs and different things like that. We were probably doing like 6-7 cases a day. And when I wasn't in the OR with them, I was usually in the ICU doing burn dressing changes. So we were dealing with explosive injury patients, shrapnel that took out a lot of their lower limbs. We were dealing with those burn victims, gunshot victims. So a lot of just trauma that we were managing.
What was the conversations like with the people?
With the patients?
Yeah.
A lot of them were just scared. They just weren't sure what's going on. They probably never expected themselves to be in that situation. They're not prepared for their homes to be bombed.
Yeah.
And them to end up in the hospital. Besides that, it was a lot of faith. Constant like expression of faith from every single one of my patients. Just continuously saying Alhamdulillah, like take care of me. I know Allah's with me. Some of them would recite Quran, despite what they're like going through. Their constant expression of faith, which I don't think, like I said, I don't think I'll ever see that anywhere else.
Any conversations stand out?
Not specifically, and I think even though I do speak Arabic, I don't speak Arabic that well, so I wasn't able to have like full like strong conversations. But I do remember one of like the burn victims, one of the daughters, like she was a little bit like delirious. I think she was in just a significant amount of pain, and she kept asking about like her mom, and she kept asking about her sister. And at that point, her mom had already passed away, and you can't tell her. You couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Besides that, I think, that's probably what stands out the most. And that family just stands out. Like I still think about them. Yeah.
What was the interaction with just other people like there, as far as like doctors and?
Yeah. These people were on like work mode. They like essentially like, I'm sure in deep down they're like extremely traumatized by everything that's happened, everything that was happening. But they were just ready to take care of their patients, and they worked 24 hours. They didn't stop. I think for the entirety of the war, majority of them worked probably like 70 to 90% of the time. And then beyond just them being in work mode, they greeted us with hospitality. These people, the doctors that were living in the hospital with their entire families, were making meals for us. They were reminding us of God. They were constantly like showing hope, even if we didn't feel like the same hope. So they were just so resilient.
What was why didn't you feel hope when you guys were there? What was the thing that was like draining your hope?
I think because we come from here.
Yeah.
I think we feel like, I think when I would say that when I was there the first time, I felt more hope than the second time, and I can expand on that later. I think that when you come from a place like this where you have a lot of privilege, you can't imagine losing your home.
Yeah.
You can't imagine losing your family member or like your entire family in a bombing.
Yeah.
And you can't imagine what you would do if
that was to happen.
That was to happen, right? So then you're hearing these constant stories of people, like these stories from every single individual that they lost their homes, they lost their family members, they lost their friends, and you're wondering to yourself, like, how can they come out of this? Like, how would I come out of this?
Yeah.
And you lose a little bit of hope. But they bring the strength, right? Yeah. You're supposed to come from outside. You're supposed to bring the strength. Yeah. You're supposed to bring them up, but they're constantly bringing us up.
Yeah. I mean, you just see them on the news now. It's like they're starting to rebuild. I just heard a story from someone that they're rebuilding a masjid there. Yeah. And like just from scratch, like just whatever tools they got, whatever they got going on.
Yeah. Rubble, and I think for up until maybe like probably a few days ago, majority like the building material hasn't been coming in. Yeah. So they were, like you said, they were using whatever they got. I heard when I was there this last week was that they destroyed.
So you were there last week?
Yeah, I was there. I came back last Friday.
Oh wow! So you were just there.
Yeah, I was just there. They said that 1,250 mosques were destroyed during the genocide.
That's wild. Well, they destroyed pretty much everything. Every structure is gone.
Oh yeah. I even came. I had the opportunity to walk outside of the hospital with somebody that was like kind of like hosting us where we were staying in the hospital this time. And he showed me where his family was living, and he took me to the mosque that he grew up in. And most of it was destroyed. It was open. Some of the structure was still standing. You still have parts of like the minaret and the dome. And he still found people praying in it. Yeah. They said they're still hosting Salah in there.
Yeah.
So it's just a testament to who the people of Gaza are.
I mean, it's wild. The whole thing is just wild to see. The whole idea of just watching it. I mean, the whole world. Like, there's probably nothing like this that's been available for everyone to see across the entire world, right? Yeah. And then, you always think to yourself, like, awareness will help solve the world's challenges. But, like, everybody knows what's happening.
Exactly.
Even the people that are, like, on the other side trying to make excuses, it's hard to, like, you hear Trump, right? In his statement where he's saying like he's gonna take own Gaza and all this stuff, but in his statement he's saying no one can live there because it's completely destroyed. It's a demolition. He is acknowledging that there's nothing left there. Yeah, he's not acknowledging who did it, but it happened, right? Yeah. So, it's like undeniable. The suffering is undeniable, right? You can never say that it didn't happen.
Yeah,
right?
And you're saying that as someone that's never been there. Yeah. And when you go there in person and I've already been watching these videos. I spent the last year and a half watching the videos, and then you go and see it in person, and it's like 100 times worse than you knew about already.
Because you have to see it. You have to see every aspect of it, right? Yeah. And then you have people's emotions.
You develop these personal relationships and get these stories from people.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to go outside the hospital at all? Did you get to see?
So the first time I went, I didn't. Like, the first time I went, it was dangerous. We were constantly hearing bombs and gunfire. The second time I went, it was the ceasefire, like I said. And I did have the opportunity to go outside the hospital on 2 occasions. The one I just mentioned, when the person that was helping us out took me to where his family lived. And so that was just a quick walk around the neighborhood. I met some of his family members. They brought me something to eat. And then we went on our way back because we had some work to do. Probably like my favorite moment of my time in Gaza probably between both times was on my second or my third day there. It was Friday. So after Jummah, one of my friends that I made from my first trip, he's an anesthesia technician. He said, I have to invite you to my house. You have to come.
His house in Gaza.
In Gaza, yeah. So he lived in Khan Yunis, but like, I don't know the exact area, but a little bit on the outskirts towards the like Israeli border. But he told me like his family's like waiting to host me. And technically we're not allowed to leave.
To go out?
Yeah, okay. We're not allowed to go out. But he was a close friend of mine. I've been staying in touch with him over like the 10 months that I wasn't there. And he kept insisting, so I decided to go. We hopped in like 2 cabs, which are not. There's people.
There's cabs around there still.
Yeah, you know, you can call it cabs. Like there'd be 6 people in like a normal car, like sitting over each other, like taking people to like certain locations, and then you have to hop in to go the other direction.
Yeah.
So essentially, whoever has cars can use that as like a way to make money.
Yeah.
And then with that experience, I got to see a lot of like Khan Yunis. And there's just the streets were filled with people that lost everything, kids everywhere, just playing. No one has shoes. People have like a little bit to eat. I think the food situation is getting better. Everything's destroyed. And we finally made our way to where my friend lives, like the area. And he walks me to his home, and we enter a school. And when we enter the school, we walk to a classroom, and he tells me, "This is a Palestinian home." And in that home lived him, 6 siblings, and his parents. Probably like a 10 by 20 room, like probably like 200 square feet.
And it's one of the few structures that are still.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And then obviously other classrooms around where families were living. And I come into this room and I find a huge plate of mendi that they prepared like just for me. Everyone's eating together, but they literally prepared this just for me. I got to meet his siblings. I got to meet his parents, and they were just so happy to host somebody. Like, despite everything they went through, they were just so happy for me to be there, and host me and laugh with me and share memories. Ask about like where I come from, like what my life is about. And then you get too shy to ask these people. Yeah. Because you don't want to bring back. You don't want to bring back memories. So you just small talk a little bit. Except like with my friend, it's different. But I don't want to bring trauma up. But I enjoyed my conversations with like his mother. Extremely loving individual. Enjoyed the meal. It was amazing. Probably like one of the best meals I've had in an extremely long time. It was made from love. And then my friend told me like, hey, we're gonna take a walk, as like they prepare some coffee for us. We take a walk. Probably walked about 200 meters, and he shows me his home. His home's completely destroyed. Walk around his home. He shares with me like this is the floor, like and floors are just collapsed over. You could point between them because there's stuff in between them. It's like this is where I used to live and shared with a room with my brother. That's my sister's mattress, where she used to sleep. That's where my dad used to grow these fruits. That's our dish. That's our laundry machine. He's like, maybe we could make something of it later. And then he just goes, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. And that's what everybody's saying there constantly. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. And I didn't know what to say. I was very emotional. You know, he just came from like a really joyous moment with the family. And then he shows you where he's currently living. He shows you where he used to live. Well, how do you console someone? And like, and those are the moments where it hurts the most. Just seeing people's like livelihoods and their homes destroyed firsthand. He walks me like over the home. I'm walking over someone's house that's destroyed. It's just it was extremely difficult. And then we came back after that, and we sat outside. His mom brought like this ghazin kunafa, so not your typical kunafa. I think it's made of like walnuts. They had purchased it because I was coming. They brought some coffee that they made from the inside, and then just more joyous moments. That was probably the most special moment of my trip in very long time.
So from around that area, how far is that from the water? I don't know the water.
So it's, I probably couldn't even. It's not that far. Like if or like considering California, I probably would take us probably like a 20-minute drive to the water if there was like a direct way. But a lot of the streets are destroyed or just things over the streets. So there's not many like main streets. I think that took about 30 minutes from the hospital, and the hospital takes about like 20 minutes to the water, given like the road situation.
Are people hopeful about the ceasefire and like where everything's going now? What are the thoughts?
Yeah, it's tricky. I think they say they're hopeful. I think they're afraid. I think they're hopeful, but I think kind of just afraid that it's going to resume. I think just trying to mentally prepare if it does resume. Things have just been so up in the air for the last year and a half. They said like wars before in Gaza used to be like a week or 2 weeks, and this was like a year and a half, and they can like barely catch their breath when like the ceasefire happened, and they have like everything to rebuild. So I think they're just fearful, and obviously like Israel, the oppressor, is just willing to break all the rules, get the support to break all the rules, destroy everything as much as they can. So it's not an entity you can trust. And I think last week or a few days ago, the ceasefire was like close to being breaking, because Hamas came and said, "Hey, like you're not meeting the agreements to the ceasefire. We're not going to release hostages until you meet these agreements." And people were fearful that the ceasefire was going to break. Thankfully, I believe they started bringing those aid trucks and the tents that they were asking for.
Yeah, and there's like stuff happening tomorrow too, right? So there's gonna be like, different things. What's your sense of when people think about rebuilding their lives? Like, how do you?
Yeah.
What was people's like thoughts on that?
It depends on who you ask, I would say. When you speak to doctors and nurses there, they're all looking for a way out. So all of them are asking me like, what is a way that I can come and work in the U.S. or like, what are my options to go to Europe? And like, it's hard to tell them that, especially with the new like Trump administration, there's probably no chance that they can come to the U.S. Like immigration is going to get extremely difficult. Just options for them to leave is just hard because let's say they want to leave and get work, or they want to leave and start school. Oftentimes they have to take the TOEFL, English or a different language literacy exams, and they don't have the means to take those exams. So some places will say you have to take it in person. There's no buildings or like Wi-Fi.
There's no options.
Yeah, they can't take those things.
I guess some people are going to surrounding countries too, right?
Some people are able to leave, or some people have left, but it's difficult. And when you see like a majority of the young healthcare system like finding ways out or like looking for ways out, you begin to question like what their future like looks like. And then
it's a challenge because people need it too, right?
Exactly.
They need it. Like if people start leaving, that's gonna be much more difficult.
Exactly. Yeah. And so when you talk to other individuals, I think other people working in the hospital, maybe they feel like they're not able to leave. Those options are not. I'm talking about the people that work security and like people that help clean the hospital. I think maybe those options aren't as available for them. They don't want to leave. They want to stay with their land. They don't want to be displaced. They want to rebuild what they always had.
Yeah. What about just the families, people? You know?
Yeah, it's a problem already. A lot of families are split up. You have like people that are working in the hospital that their wife and children are in Egypt, or they're in a different place. So I think the goal is to bring everybody back together, and then maybe find a way out, or maybe to just support each other. A lot of people that I know that like young people that have kids that had their own home.
Yeah.
They and their home was destroyed, or their family's home were destroyed. They just consolidate. They all live together. So I think the beautiful thing about the people of Gaza is that they have large families. They support each other, and it's just the nature of the Palestinian people. But yeah, I'm sure it's an individual to individual basis of like people that are like, they see a future. I think they're hopeful for a future, but some people are just so like what is it gonna look like here? And maybe I should begin exploring other options. Yeah.
What's something that before going and then going, you know, and then leaving, coming back, what's something that changed in your perspective on life?
I think a few things. First off, the second time that I went to Gaza, this like recent trip, I went through Amman, and I went through like the Jisr, the border crossing into Israel, driving through Israel, going through the border again. I think this time it felt more of like that open air prison that everybody begins to describe, because I think when I came through Egypt the first time, I was able to get in easily. We saw people leaving. We heard stories of people's families were able to escape. This time it was like constantly dealing with the IDF, and like you've heard these stories, like we've heard these stories for tens of years. And so dealing with the IDF, it was just like, it's absolutely miserable. Getting in, like the way that we got in from Cornel into Gaza felt like I don't know how to describe it. It felt like it literally felt like we were entering prison. I could share a video with you later. Somebody kind of like snuck a video. It literally felt like we were entering a prison. And then you hear stories of like people that literally just came from like, I think a person I met in the ICU, he was like, I was working in Germany. I came to visit my family. The war started and I'm stuck. So it literally feels like a prison. It is a prison, like period. And you feel stuck. You feel that the people are stuck, and there's not a lot of options for them. I think that another thing that one of the biggest takeaways is having like these individuals the people of Gaza have faith despite all the atrocities that are like put on them. And then it's in comparison to us losing faith at the smallest inconvenience, or like not even remembering God at the smallest inconvenience. But these people are like remembering God through the murder of their family and their children, and their loss of their homes, and it really puts things into perspective of like what's important. How can we ground ourselves with God and faith and Allah, and just that. Yeah.
What's one thing that you would want to share to people about your experience when it comes to, you know?
We like shared a lot. One thing.
If you had to tell people about one thing about your experience, what would it be?
I would say that like that special experience. I think the special experience at my friend's home kind of tells you everything. Despite losing their home, extremely hospitable. Despite all the circumstances, they're getting together, they're praying together, they're saying Alhamdulillah. They're getting up and they're finding any opportunity to work, even if like their field is not, there's no way for them to work as an accountant or things like that. They're constantly finding opportunities to work. My friend that I went to his home, he volunteers his time. He doesn't, I think, so he literally volunteers his time with the Ministry of Health as like an employee. On top of that, he has like some work that's through like a international organization. But I literally mean he volunteers his time to give. He works with organizations and volunteers his time to help people, to give them food aid and clothing and helping rebuild their homes. And he doesn't have a home, so that just tells you everything about the people. I think just constantly remember that the people of Gaza are resilient, they're strong, they're people of faith. This is their land. They don't deserve what happened to them. They don't deserve the loss of life. They are an oppressed people, and they just want, I think they just want to live normal lives. I think they constantly will tell you that we don't want to deal with whatever Hamas is doing. We just want to live our life. We're normal people.
Yeah.
We just want to pray. We want to laugh. We want to love. And they don't have the ability to do all that because of what's happening to them.
Appreciate your time, sir.
Yeah.
And may Allah reward you for your efforts and having the courage to do this, because a lot of people it'll be too difficult, right? You don't know what to expect, and and I've heard stories from people who have gone to Gaza in the past over the years, and they've passed away too. So it takes a lot of courage to do it. So,
alhamdulillah, I think it was a gift from Allah that I was able to go. I think that I needed them more than they needed me. I needed it more than they needed me. I probably benefited more than I could ever benefit them. Probably one drop, if that, in the ocean of their turmoil. And I just ask that Allah accepts from me and grant me sincerity.
Just to close on that point, that is what keeps humanity intact. And I think one of the challenges of living in Western countries is your heart does become a little bit hardened to the struggles of people, right? Because you're just constantly like hustling, you're working, you're doing other things, you're building, and it's only through really being present with people through like extreme pain is where you actually transfer the empathy. Yeah. Otherwise, here we've sort of closed our eyes to a lot of things. Yeah. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah.
All right. Assalamu alaikum.